This was the first time Melanie had ever worked in a convenience store. The shift here lasted a whole day, but the young woman was happy with that arrangement. She had a dream to save up for a trip around the world, so took 2 jobs at once. Melanie was 27 years old, and she was single. Ever since she was a child, the woman had dreamed of traveling around the earth on a huge liner. She had no parents and no one to help her. Her father left her and her mother when she was very young, and her mother soon got married and moved to another city to live with a new husband. She decided to leave the daughter with her grandmother at first until she got used to the new place. The move was put off for various reasons, and then the girl herself did not want to change her place of residence. Her grandmother became dearer to her than her mother, and she did not want to leave her alone. 2 years ago, her grandmother died, and now Melanie was left alone. The second saleswoman in the store hastily showed Melanie around the store, showed her all the basics, said that the security guard would come after lunch, and ran home to sleep. Melanie was left alone. She walked along the shelves, corrected the merchandise, wiped down the counter. It was early morning, and there weren't many customers yet. Toward noon, customers began to come in, and more frequently, sometimes even forming a queue. Melanie was spinning like a squirrel in a wheel. Then she noticed a boy about 12 years old in the crowd. He was grimy, wore an old jacket, obviously from someone else's shoulder, and had a handful of pennies clutched in his fist. He stood apart from everyone else, as if afraid to come up. His eyes were frightened. Melanie did not notice him demonstratively. She was very squeamish, and this little beggar did not inspire confidence. She smiled at the newly entering customers, chatted with them, giggled, while the boy stubbornly stood and waited. When all the customers were gone and the boy walked closer to the saleswoman, put a handful of coins on the counter, and asked for bread and milk. "Well, why are you so grimy? You came for milk. Should you at least dress decently before going to a public place? Didn't your mother teach you that?" The boy had tears in his eyes. But Melanie paid no attention to this. She defiantly put a rubber glove on her hand and began to count the coins, muttering to herself something disgruntled. The boy could not stand it anymore, cried and ran out of the store, leaving the money on the counter and not taking the bread and milk. Melanie shouted after him to pick up his purchases, but the boy was already far away and did not hear her. He ran as fast as he could, wiping away his tears. The young woman raked up the money in her hand and put it in the separate box in the cash register, deciding to warn the shift worker to give it back to the boy when he reappeared. Soon the guard came and work became more fun. At least there was someone to chat with. Melanie completely forgot about the boy. In the morning, the shift worker came in, and just before Melanie left, she remembered the coins left by the boy and told about him. It turned out that everyone in the store knew the boy, as well as the entire neighborhood. His name was Austin, and he was not a vagrant. His mother was just sick and could not work. They lived in an allowance, which was catastrophically not enough, so the boy was constantly working part-time. He went to the store for one neighbor, mowed the grass for another, walked the pets for a third. Everyone was nice to him because he was a good and responsive boy. Melanie felt very ashamed, almost to tears. How could she do this to a child? She already hated herself. She remembered how she had taken care of her sick grandmother, and now, a boy who was younger than her was taking care of his own mother. The woman decided to apologize to the boy. She gathered the coins in her pocket, took a bag full of groceries, and asked where she could find Austin. Surprised, shift worker told her that most likely he was at the market. That's where he usually looked for someone who needed help. It did not take long to find him. As soon as Melanie entered the market, she saw the boy. He was helping to arrange the fruit to one of the sellers. When she came closer, the boy looked at her, frightened, and turned away to put down the box. He was about to run away, but she grabbed his sleeve and spoke affectionately. Melanie told him that she had not come to quarrel, but to ask forgiveness. The boy stared at her with his eyes wide open. "Please, try to understand me," said Melanie. "It was my first day in a new place, a lot of people, my head was spinning, and you got under the heat of the moment. Don't hold it against me. I know that your name is Austin and that your mother is sick. I bought you some groceries, and of course I understand that it's hard to make it up with you, but I'll try." Melanie smiled. Austin looked at her, smiled back, and said that he didn't hold a grudge against her. The boy took the package and went home. His face lit up with a smile, and Melanie felt better. When she got home, the young woman remembered that she had not given the boy his money. When she went to the next shift, she took 2 portions of food with her, in case Austin came. And he did. She offered him a snack, and he didn't refuse. When the boy finished the meal, Melanie finally gave him his coins. They chatted for a long time. He told her about his mother, about how his father had left them when his mother became ill, found a new wife, and now he had another beloved son. He did not even remember them. So Austin took care of his mother alone. He had learned to do absolutely everything at home so that his mother didn't have to strain herself too much. The boy complained that he had no friends. No one wanted to be friends with him, and many classmates even called him names because he was very poor. But despite this, Austin did not despair and believed that eventually everything would improve. Melanie listened to the boy and marveled at his strength and spirit, and that difficulties didn't break him. On the contrary, they made him stronger. Gradually, they became friends, and one day, Melanie asked him to introduce her to his mother. Austin was embarrassed at first, but the woman explained that summer was ending. The boy would be going to school soon, and it would be difficult for him to find a part-time job, and she could continue to help them. But she would have to discuss it with his mother. Austin agreed. After meeting Melanie, after her shift, the boy took her to his house. When his mother found out that the young woman in front of her was the one who regularly gave them grocery bags, she rushed to thank her. Melanie said that she had not come for gratitude. She became very attached to Austin and she wanted to help. She had money because she had been saving for a long time for the trip, but it didn't matter anymore. It would do them more good. Looking at the apartment where Austin and his mother lived, Melanie felt uncomfortable. Old wallpaper, blackened from old age floor, some incomprehensible drought and cold. She thought only for a while and invited Austin and his mother to stay with her. Her spacious apartment had enough room for everyone, and besides, it was more fun together. When Austin heard this proposal, he clapped his hands and looked at his mother pleadingly, who, in spite of her embarrassment, had to agree for the sake of her son. Within a week, they moved in with Melanie. No one at school made fun of Austin anymore, and no one called him a beggar. Now he had a mom and an older sister. They lived in a nice, spacious apartment. The boy had his own room and a bunch of new cool stuff. He never dreamed life would turn out like this. A handful of coins now stood on his shelf in a beautiful jar. After all, they brought him happiness.